namely lawyers, doctors, judges, and politicians. They consistently take advantage of blacks without any guilt, anxiety, or threat to their self-esteem. For example, in the black community, white doctors are the largest group of drug pushers. They prescribe unneeded and dangerous drugs along with performing unnecessary operations. White scientists use blacks in very destructive studies. For example, the Tuskegee experiment, when black men were denied treatment for syphilis, and there's some evidence that many could have been deliberately infected. The role that white scientists have played in black oppression should not be surprising for blacks, but they have always been the planners of black oppression, the white scientists. And as a rule, never ask why they're doing it, but only how do you do it. This behavior of white scholars, for example, Jensen and Shockley, are classic examples of intelligence in the service of racist institutions or psychopathic behavior. Jensen and Shockley are simply following the psychopathic tradition of Hegel, Carlyle, Galton, etc., that has continued for hundreds of years. History is replete with examples of white scientists justifying the, quote, inferiority, unquote, of the black race. There was the eminent Dr. Samuel Cartwright of Louisiana, who diagnosed blacks who ran away from slave owners as having a disease of the mind, for running away. Dr. Robert Bean of Johns Hopkins University in 1906 proposed that blacks had smaller brains than whites, and since brain efficiency depended on the numbing position of nerve cells and fibers in the brain, blacks had less capacity for development than whites. Dr. Carl Jung, one of the white janks of psychology, stated that white America's sexual inadequacy was due to their having to live together with a barbaric race, us. The whites' use of scientific justification for racial oppression can be found in even the most inadequate libraries. What makes white scientists such as Shockley and Jensen so dangerous to the black community today is not that not only do they present so-called scientific proof of the black threat, but they also offer solutions, and with the present level of technology available to them, should not be taken lightly. However, it is self-defeating and useless for black scientists to debate with white scientists such as Shockley and Jensen using the mass media. White scientists never debate with black scientists on the question of race. They simply want exposure of their ideas. Additionally, it is pathological for a black to discuss the question of whether blacks should exist or not with whites. For all other people, simply raising the question about their existence is tantamount to a declaration of war. This then is the psychopathic personality or the matador. The one constant in this ever-changing world is the behavior of the white race and their relationship with blacks. This is a very challenging problem, and the inevitable question is, what should we do? One dilemma that is posed for black people is the consistent appeal that is made for the liberation by them through channels created for them by the psychopaths, namely through two modalities, democracy, two ideologies, democracy and communism, or Marxism. A cursory examination of both immediately points out the futility of blacks giving them any more consideration. Blacks must accept the reality that for the white race, democracy and racism, and democracy and racial oppression are not conflicting ideals. This is, I don't know why this is so difficult for blacks to accept, but it is. We must accept that for the white race, democracy and racial oppression are not conflicting ideas. The fact that we have been enslaved for over 350 years by a democratic form of government should be evidence enough. Furthermore, a democratic government presupposes an inherent equality of races. Therefore, it does not provide methods of liberation for those who are not equal. Communism can be dismissed, or Marxism can be dismissed as an alternative with even less discussion. For it to be viable requires cooperation of the masses of the white race, and with that being the primary condition, needs no further consideration. However, since blacks have finally rejected democracy as an alternative by attempting to burn down its bastion in the United States, there are signs that it is now time for the Marxists to try to contain us. They have enlisted some formidable black allies. For example, throughout Africa, the black heads of state have rejected race as a criterion for struggle. The black leaders go to great lengths to deny our struggle is racial, yet the only truly independent nations on the African continent are those headed by the white invaders. One of the great tragedies is the relationship between blacks and Arabs. For blacks to accept the Arabs as anything but white invaders is a pathological denial of reality. In the oil crisis, the slave traders from the north, or the Arabs, treated black Africa worse than they treated some European nations, which is consistent behavior for white psychopaths. No white nation in the world encourages black immigration, but there's a great effort throughout the world to integrate Africa. In fact, most white nations discourage black immigration. For example, the United States, England, France, Russia, China, etc. China, yes, Yes, why would China with 800 million Chinese and not enough land